So we are recording. So welcome everybody. My name is Melissa Somoza and I'm principal here at Hilltop. We've actually had 4 information sessions so far this year. Our first one was for all of our kindergarten families, all about during the week of Jumpstart, all about Hilltop and kindergarten. That was really exciting. We had over 60 families participate in that. Then that same evening, last Tuesday night, we had an evening information night for new families or newish families. And we also had quite a large turnout. We had about 12 families in that. And then today we had another new family orientation, just to kind of orient everybody in the Hilltop ways. And we had about 30 families attend that as well. So pretty exciting to get to see and connect with families, even though it's over Zoom. Wasn't how we thought we'd be starting this school year. If you would have asked me in July, we were full force ready for having less restrictions. We thought we wouldn't need to wear masks on the playground. We thought it was going to look a lot different than it is. And of course, with the new variant and the new restrictions from the health department, we are back to things being quite similar to the spring. And if your child was here in the hybrid situation, you're familiar with a lot of it, but we know some families were fully remote last year. So we want to take time today to explain what to expect for this school year, for the 2021-22. And I even want to caution that a little bit, like what to expect for the beginning of the school year, because we are getting really used to change, and we think and we know that things are probably going to change as the year goes on. We're setting ourselves up for following all the guidelines, and then if some of those guidelines start going away, some of that guidance starts becoming less restrictive, then we will be able to adjust and we have kind of backup systems so that we can return to things that are a little bit more traditional, I guess, a little bit more normal. Although there's a part of me this is starting to feel normal, which is so weird. So let me get started here. So if you're just joining us, hopefully you're getting the message that tonight's session is recorded. We just talked a little bit about what the things that we're going to cover. We want to make sure you know what school is going to be like for your child this year and this fall, and get any health and safety information to you of how we are mitigating COVID-19, and I want to be able to answer your questions. So that's how tonight will go. We do have the chat feature, and I apologize. It ended up being just focused on direct messaging. I got to change something in my settings. So, but I'll be able to share out when people have questions. So if there's any questions, let me know. And the first question, and I'll probably pop in, either I'll answer your question or I'll get to it later. But first question is, if the mitigation measures that we're expected to follow by the Department of Health, if they get more strict, do we have plans to make things, do we have plans in place for that? And we are all about adapting. Things are changing constantly. And so where I think somewhere at the district, they have even more ideas of what could possibly be coming. If we had to, we are definitely making sure we are prepared if we had to quarantine large groups of students, if we had to do remote instruction. We're setting ourselves up and having teachers set themselves up for the year so that we can make that happen. Like an example is kids are pretty soon, once the year gets started, kids will be taking their Chromebooks. We have one-to-one Chromebooks. They'll be taking them back and forth to school. that's our just in case, right? Worst case scenario, kid had to stay home, somebody, a class had to stay home, we would have a plan in place. So I do want to do a land acknowledgement. This is something that we do across our school district for large gatherings. So we acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes, who since time immemorial have taken care of, hunted, fished, and gathered on these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and the water. By acknowledging these homelands, we commit to working with tribal nations to further the education aims they have identified in our classrooms and schools. I'll just leave that there in Spanish for a moment. The district has done an excellent job of checking in to see where we need interpreters. And we were able to check through any families that have requested interpreters, but sometimes we know that doesn't always show up in paperwork. So if your family ever needs an interpreter, we can make that happen. Please make sure you let the office know or let one of our staff members know so we can make record of that. As I said in the beginning, I am Melissa Somoza. I'm principal here at Hilltop. When you come into our office, you are going to be greeted by Amara Swan, our office assistant, and Michelle Howell, who's our office manager. And when I say come into the office, that's a little different this year. We are not allowed to have extra visitors, including family members, into our office unless there was an emergency situation. Of course, if a student's really struggling and really needs your support, or there's a medical situation, we will make exceptions. But for most of the time, we will be meeting you at the door and helping you outside. And if we need to make special arrangements to have a meeting, we will do that if that's needed. We also have Bonnie Sheehan with us again this year, our student coordinator. Most of you know Bonnie Sheehan. She is just a great advocate for students, and she acts very much like a dean. So if your student needs a little bit of support in any way, she can help to coordinate that, which is so great. So I want to make sure everybody has the first day of school right. The first day of school is Wednesday, September 8th. We'll be talking about our hours, but it's students, because last year was different time-wise, we've had a lot of phone calls to say, okay, what time does school start again? Although the official start time is 8:40, if you walk in after 8:40, you're tardy. We like to get our kids set up for the day, so we arrive between 8:20 and 8:30. We're letting our kindergartners even try to aim for that first week of school. They're going to aim, or that second week of school when kindergartners arrive, we'll let them aim for about 8:30 to 8:35 so we can give them some extra TLC. Your child won't be late unless they arrive after 8:40, but it helps us and helps your child if you can get here between 8:20 and 8:30, and at 8:30, that's when they start going into the classroom. There was a little mistake on the calendars that the school district sent out originally, and that was that they had the last day of school incorrect. So make sure you have the last day of school as Friday, June 24th. That is the official last day of school. So here's our schedule. Just give you a chance to look at that, digest it. Yes, great. And there was a question from Samuel, who's offering tech support. We really appreciate the fact that we do have tech support here. Let's see, let's go to the next question. So students are going to enter the classroom at 8:30. So if they're arriving between 8:20 and 8:30, here's some images of what it will look like at lineup. We are going to have kids line up outside of their classroom door. Most of our classrooms have an outside door. If not, there'll be a designated area. And in those designated areas, we'll have signs that clearly say Miss Tom's room, which will be outside the unit door, or Miss Smith, who has a classroom inside the unit, that will be right outside the unit door. So you'll be able to come anytime after Thursday when you get your class letters that tell you who your student's teacher is. You'll be able to come around our campus over the weekend and see exactly where your child's going to line up. Here we have just an example. I'm going to show you a few examples of classrooms. Right now in our classrooms, for safety, and one of our mitigation factors is that kids are going to be seated 3 feet apart. So the arrangements will look different. We have additional furniture in our rooms, but here's an example. Kids still really engaged. This is from our Jumpstart. Very excited. They don't have name tags yet, but they will. It's going to look very much like a regular school year. Here's some other pictures of in the classroom. Some of these are actually from next year, so they're a little bit farther apart. Our teachers are still available to come up close and help a student. They're going to pull back as soon as possible, but we're putting kids first. The phrase that I continue to use over and over is safe and joyful learning. So we're looking for safe, we're looking for mitigation factors, but we want our learning to be joyful and our time at Hilltop to be joyful. So one question I could answer right away is, when will we find out who our child's teacher will be? That showed up in the chat. And we will find out, you will get an email on Thursday, this Thursday, at about 3 o'clock. So they're getting all set up. They're the letters from the teachers ready to introduce themselves to you. That helps us. We have every school year, there's always some last minute changes with staffing. We're pretty lucky. We haven't had a lot of changes. If you know Mrs. Lewis, Miss Priscilla Lewis, she's going to actually be teaching this year for the online academy. A lot of our schools, our kids shifted to all being in schools to some of our kids being in the online academy. It's about 7% of our students across the district. And Priscilla Lewis is a person from our school that we had to kind of give one teacher for the online academy, and that was Priscilla Lewis. So she'll still be working in our building. She'll still be collaborating with our staff. She'll be back here with us. So that was one shift that happened, and that just happened last week. Another shift that happened is that meant that Mr. Matt Grover, we have a bubble at 4th grade. We have a large group of 4th graders. So Matt Grover is going to be teaching 4th grade this year, and we'll have just 2 5th grade teachers. So we have a smaller group at 5th grade. So Mark Randall and Sarah Alsap Fine. Those are examples of some of the changes that can happen quite last minute. And one of the reasons why we put off sharing class information until that week before school starts. We don't want people to be disappointed if they were to think they're getting somebody and then it changed. Okay. I'm just going to take a moment to just look at the chat. So one of the questions, and we see this question a lot, is could I change if I start getting concerned and worried about the Delta variant? And we know things are changing all the time. Could we, as a family, decide that we want our child to go to remote? And then if we change our mind, could they come back to Hilltop? And so the process for that is, unfortunately, it's not something that I can just change a switch and make it so that your child can go to the remote academy. But there is a link on the school district website. And if you have any trouble finding it, you can call the office and we'll email it to you. And it's a form that you can fill out saying, I request a change. And you're changing from in-person to remote, or some people want to change from remote to in-person. You're able to make that switch. And then when that when it's reviewed by our cabinet, so by our assistant superintendents and their team, they review all the requests and then they're able to make the changes. They're trying to decide right now, I haven't heard the latest information on this, but they're trying to decide when is the point that they'll allow switching once the school year gets going. And so they will it be on the quarters? Will it be at the semester? But there will be an opportunity if you change your mind to come back. I just don't know yet if it's going to be the quarters or semester. That's something that they're figuring out at cabinet so that we can be the least disruptive for our students and we're able to staff the programs as we need to. We had, as we just shifted teachers, we may find if things, if we have less incidents of the COVID in our area, we might find that we need to shift some staff back from online to in person. So that always takes a little bit of time. So we'll still have recess. Here's just one picture. Kids have recess this year. Kids will stay. One of our mitigation measures is to stay in cohorts on the playground. That was another thing that a couple weeks ago we thought, oh, we'll be able to do grade levels, but it went back to class cohorts. And so per class, each class will have a section of our playground. If you walk out there, you'll see a number 1 and another number 1. That's the start of the number 1 zone. You'll see a number 2 for the number 2 zone, and it goes on. We have about 12 zones. When your child has recess, if it's a Monday, they might be in zone 1. Tuesday, zone 2. Wednesday, zone 3. We heard our kids, we listened to our students, and last year we only had a rotation of about 3 zones. And some of our older and younger kids said, hey, I didn't get a chance at the tire swing. I didn't get a chance at the covered area. So they're going to rotate each day. It's going to go pretty quick. So within a couple weeks, about 2.5 weeks, they will have hit every zone. And the materials or the equipment that we have in the zone, kids are allowed to they sanitize before they go out and they sanitize when they come in. And so they are able to play basketball with each other, play soccer with each other. They're allowed to, we have got some new equipment because some areas have less big toys. And so there might be hula hoops, there might be, frisbees or a new kind of ball game or jump ropes. And then kids can use those materials and then they're sanitized before the next day, before the next cohort is using them. Recess is masks on. So that's another change that's happened in the last couple of weeks. The school district went to masks on for the entire campus. So unless kids are eating, they will have their mask on. Here's a sample of our arrangement in the lunchroom. This is a picture from last year. Last year, we had huge spaces between our classes. Our spaces right now will be the next set of tables will be just 6 feet apart. So kids will be 6 feet apart as much as possible. There may be some times where we got to squeeze somebody in at 5 feet or, the mandate from the state is to be able to serve all kids. However, I believe we need to do everything we can to stay within the parameters that the health department has set. So we'll be 6 feet apart in the gym. What that means though, is we have 4 lunch periods. And in those 4 lunch periods, we can only get 1 grade in the gym at a time to be 6 feet apart and with the amount of furniture we have. So there will be some classes that will have lunch in their classroom. So we're going for the smaller classes that have less kids and then can spread out during the lunchtime. Another time kids will eat in their classroom, could be snack. Some teachers will probably take their kids outside for snack, but even outside, kids will be 6 feet apart when they're eating. So whether outside or whether they're eating inside, they'll be 6 feet apart. Whereas during instructions or other times when they're with their classroom, there will be 3 feet apart. Okay, so there's a question of, will there be options for kids to eat outside? So the kids that are in the lunchroom, there won't be, because the amount of staff to supervise, the kids need to stay inside, but there's a lot of space and air. And the kids that are in their classroom, in some cases, we know that if we can't get kids 6 feet apart in the classroom, we'll either spill out in the hallway, or if it's a nice day, we'll spill out outside. So those kids who would like to could sit outside. If you have a strong opinion about that, you could share like, hey, when possible, I'd like my child to sit outside. Won't always have, as I said, if they're in lunchroom, might not always have that option, but it's just good for your teacher to know. You know, some parents could say, I don't want my child eating outside, it's dusty, right? So it's always nice just to know your opinion and know what you prefer for your child. It's also okay to have conversations with your kids. Hey, if your teacher gives you the chance to eat outside or inside, I really want you to select outside, right? And that's another way to get that across. So our lunch periods are 20 minutes. So our kids who are eating in the classroom, the kids who are getting lunch from the cafeteria, they will kind of leave a few minutes before, so they have the whole 20 minutes to eat. And there'll be somebody who'll escort them there and escort them back to the room. We do 20 minutes because that is a state requirement, and it's about the right time. There's definitely a buzz at the end of 20 minutes. Kids start to do a little less eating and start to get a little more social. We typically have the doors open, and there's the airflow. We also have our our HVAC system. We have the MERV, if I'm saying it right, MERV filters. I just checked with our custodian. He just changed them today. He changes them every 3 months. And there's a higher level filter than we've used in the past. Then we also, being an older school, we get to manually adjust our fans. And so our fans are running at a higher speed than they normally are, as well as our fans in our building are pulling in fresh air 24 hours a day. So we're getting that airflow and getting old air out and new air in. I'm just kind of checking through things in the chat, and there'll be some things that I know I'm going to hit on later. Okay. So one of the things from this school year, and this was true of last year as well, is the federal government has, knows that COVID has created a financial impact for our families. Breakfast and lunch are free. So breakfast, if kids arrive, if your child would like to have breakfast, I encourage them to arrive at 8:20. Right away. They'll go into the gym and eat lunch. We also have at lunchtime, anybody who wants to have hot lunch. So if you don't send a lunch for your child, then they're going to get lunch. There is a menu. There's a bit.ly here for the menu. So there is a menu that you can check out that's different than last year. There wasn't a choice. And the meals will be more like the hot meals that we're used to. Although there'll be more, the vegetables and fruits might be more sealed in plastic, and we'll make sure that there's servers serving the food, less kind of, it's less grab and go. So the district's put a lot of thought into how to do food service in a really safe way during this. Okay. We'll get lots of COVID safety questions, which is fabulous. And so we're going to go through all those, and then I'll double check the questions to make sure that we didn't miss anything. So just to let you know, safe and joyful, we're still going to have fun activities. So examples of fun activities, last year we still continued to have our readathon. We still did dress up days. all those kind of fun things. We're still also able to do field day. So just some quick picks from field day. The activities we chose were different than in some years, but we were able to do that as well. Oops, sorry. Here are more examples of classrooms. So these are both classrooms that are set up right now. This is from Jumpstart on your left, and then on your right is just the corner of a classroom. But just to let you know, our classrooms are still warm and inviting. They're not sterile. And I think that's really important. I know it's a little bit going to be hard. One of the mitigation factors is that we can't have parents on campus. And so that makes it a little challenging because you don't always get a chance to see your child's classroom and such. We will work on curriculum night to make sure teachers have some pictures of their classroom or do a little turnaround and show you around. And any ideas that you have around, how can we make you feel included in the classroom? Please let us know. Let's see. So one of the fun things about Hilltop, and I know you're not here to listen about arrival and dismissal, but it is really important and it's really connected to our COVID mitigation that we're doing as well. I'm in talks with Snohomish County Traffic Department to see if they can help us out with some signs on the roads, different things to help make our pickup go as smooth as possible. We had it down where we could get all the kids out of here a couple of years ago in 12 minutes from the time the bell rang, which was amazing. And last year in the spring when we did hybrid, we were able to make pickup and drop off go pretty quickly. It'll take a little bit of extra time the first few weeks of school. We know that, right? So give yourself extra time upon arrival, give yourself extra time around dismissal. If you are a bus rider, your kids are bus riders, on the bus, they will be wearing masks. And a little bit later, I'll give you the phone number for transportation. If you don't have your bus information, you know how to go onto Skyward. That's one way that you can find out your bus route information. The bus zone, the kids over here, we're going to have lots of staff to help walk kids to the outside door of their classroom. And the same with our arrival by car. Our car arrival, we now have, although this is yellow on this map, we now have it painted green, so that our drop off and pickup zone, which is only in front of the gym, it helps get cars off of Danson. And we've said, as I said before, you may have heard me talk about when we have backups on Danson, it really causes dangerous conditions. Unfortunately, we have people who don't realize it's a school and they will drive around the backup, and sometimes that puts them into our crosswalk at a dangerous time. And so we don't want cars speeding through our crosswalk. So we try to keep Danson as clear as possible. So sometimes you get waved on and asked to drive around the block. And yes, we have a long block, but by the time you come back around to the school, the line will be better. It always tends to work out that way, and you'll be able to pull right in and pick up your child or drop off your child. If you are walking, we're going to ask that you use, we need you to use either Dropoff Zone 1 here, where the 5 is, or the 6. You'll see bright orange cones, and there will be, just like as at your car, there will be staff who will greet you, grab a few children, walk them, so the young children help walk them to their lines. We also have our patrols who will help with that as well. So that's just part of keeping a safe area on our campus. So we don't have our students exposed to lots and lots of other adults. And it's just part of our COVID safety. Okay, we've talked about getting your teacher information on September 2nd at 3 o'clock. And now we're going to go into some of the details of the COVID safety, and then I'll head back to some of the questions in the chat. So as part of our COVID-19 safety, we are following the guidelines of the Snohomish County Health Department and the Washington State Department of Health. We are required to have masks on inside and outside right now on campus. And so even at drop off and pickup, if you're standing as a parent waiting for your child because you walk to campus, please wear your mask. If you're dropping off in a car and somebody is really needing to help your child and get close into your car, it's sure nice to put your mask on. If you're dropping off your child and they're real independent, then that's not necessary. We do ask that for arrival and dismissal, that you not park your car during those busy times. We really want you to use the drop-off zone. We can't have people coming up across the crosswalk, and we don't want you not using the crosswalk either in our parking lot. So we ask you not to park unless you have a really unique situation, and then I'm sure we'll know about it. Let's see. So we want every family to check for the COVID-19 symptoms. So this is really important. If your child has a stuffy nose, if they are runny nose, and it's not due to a known condition, which would be different. If your child has allergies, you've told us about that they have allergies, it's on your child's records, then we understand. You might even just let us know, like, hey, they get allergies every October when the leaves fall. And that's okay. They can come to school. But if they have a fever, they have a sore throat, they have nasal congestion for an unknown reason, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, shortness of breath. There's a lot of them. Hopefully they're on the next page. And we'll be sending them home. But really do that check and err on the side of keeping your kids home if needed. So one of the places that you can go to find out lots of information, especially if you like details, is the Edmond School District COVID Health and Safety Handbook. If you go to our district website, it's the first banner that pops up that says, COVID safety. Click on that and the handbook will be there. You can also use this bit.ly. It's going to be updated as things change, but it goes into really heavy detail about so many COVID things. We're not doing daily attestations. So the emails that you received last year, if you were hybrid, we're not doing that. But we are asking families to check, and staff to do a health check before they're coming to school for themselves. Yes, sorry, that's a little redundant there. Okay, here's those COVID-19 symptoms, so I don't have to say them from my head. One of them I know is also, that's going to come from the next page, is that loss of taste or smell. Let you read those. So like the headache, if your child has migraines, it's documented in our records, that's important. And you can let us know too, if there's a change, like you discovered your child has allergies, let us know. So cleaning and disinfecting. There's, we're definitely, the cleaning is focused in on the high touched areas, the doorknobs, the sink knobs, but also our surface of our desks are clean. We're, vacuuming, all those things, just being a little bit more aware of highly used areas. And then we talked a little bit already about our ventilation system, maximizing the speed of our motors, of our fans, so that the air is being forced at a higher rate. Our HVAC system is running 24 hours a day, and we have the MERV filters that are changed every 3 months, just installed yesterday. We also have a hand hygiene. We're teaching kids about hand hygiene, and I'm not sure that we're going to watch this short video, but it is, we'll have this, it is, trying to think of where we can show that. I'll include it in our next parent or family newsletter that I send home, but definitely taking that time to teach your kids now how to wash their hands, whether it's, a happy birthday song or 2 happy birthday songs. It's not, I have a son, my kids are going into middle school and high school, and I still have to say, no way, that was like a second, or I have to say, yes, you have to use soap. You need to use soap, and you need to get good bubbles. And so take time. That's one of the things you can do. The hand washing is really important. We do have kids wash their hands as they enter the classroom, and we have them wash their hands before they eat. Now, then we also have them on top of that, we have them sanitize when they, if they've used shared materials or they're going to use shared materials, or we have them when they're going out to recess, or when they're coming into recess, when they're going to music and coming out of music, library, going into library, coming out of library, going into PE, coming out of PE. Every kind of transition, we're hand sanitizing. Some parents want to reduce the amount of hand sanitizer and want more hand washing. And again, that's something just to let your teacher know. It's if we had enough sinks, we'd probably have kids hand wash even more often. But let teachers know your preference. We'll work with your family on what feels best to you. But the hand sanitizing is kind of the quickest and most convenient way, especially when we're leaving the gym or a location that we don't have access to sinks at that time, or a lot of sinks. Okay, proper mask wearing. Maybe I should be showing these videos. Let me show this one. Hold on. Oops. I bet you I have to stop sharing. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so that when I do share my screen, I make sure I share my sound.
Wait.
Okay, thumbs up when you can hear the music. You might have to turn off your cameras. Sometimes that helps with the. We'll give it a minute to scroll. If it doesn't work, then I'll send them out to you. Okay, I think what we'll do is I'll send the link out to you, and we'll be able to, I'll send it out to the whole school, and we will do it that way. Okay. Sorry. I need my own tech person. There we go. Switching off between screens. Okay. Back on track here. So masks, you definitely want, multiple layers masks are proven to be a little bit better. You're going to make a choice as a family what you choose to send your child with. I encourage you to send 2 masks, one in their backpack, one on.
Or it's time to take it off. Remove it by the ear loops. Don't touch the front of the mask. That's where the germs are. Place the mask in a container or in a store.
Let's try that again. Technical difficulties. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Bring 2 masks. When your child is singing, your children will, if they're singing in music class or in the classroom, the district is providing a 3-layer mask that is a surgical mask, 3 layers. So that's the only time that we'll ask kids to change their own personal mask for a different kind of mask. And that's because the health department has set standards for performing arts and for singing. And one of the standards for singing is they need to have a special mask. There's also special masks that the districts are providing if your student is a 5th or 6th grader in an instrumental music, a mask with a little hole to put the instrument in as well. And I think it might even be a cover at the end of the instrument. That's in the COVID handbook, some of the details about that. And we'll be sure to send it out. If your child is in instrumental music and blowing in an instrument, we'll be sure to send out details on what the safety will be around that. The other thing is masks need to fit over the nose and the mouth. And so we, they really need to stay up. I mean, we're so calm with our corrections and gentle and, hey, time to pull up your mask. But if you feel like your child's mask doesn't fit right, we always have a supply of surgical masks for kids. We have masks that we can give you if you'd like. Always happy to help with that. And the district, we have an unlimited supply from our warehouse. They have been very good at getting us all prepared. Excuse me. Okay. So the vaccine is required of all school district employees. There is some medical exemption, religious exemption. You've probably seen some of the art news articles about when that decision was made by the governor. The vaccine is available to anyone 12 years and older. So we know our 6th graders and our parents of 6th graders are going to be going through that process as their kids are turning 12. It's not required for students to have the vaccine, but we encourage it. We encourage your child to get a vaccine. I would go to the Snohomish Health District's website to learn more and find out what you need to find. And I also think talking with your physician is, that's the person who knows you, knows your family, knows your situation, and can give you the best medical advice. So COVID testing, we are able to test our students for COVID here at school. So when a student has symptoms, one of the things that we will be asking you is, would you like us to test your child? We typically wait, in most cases, we wait until the parent is here to pick up your child so you can watch the process. It involves you entering information into a database because it's done through a private company. The only people who get the results are you through email. I get the results, and at the district level, they get the results as well. And that's it. Nobody else on our staff gets the results. It is confidential. The testing, the kit that has been so far that we've used is a mouth swab. But some families also choose, if their children have symptoms, to go to get testing done outside of our school too, and that's fine as well. If your child has symptoms that require them to leave school or to stay home from school, then they're able to come, if they have not had any exposure to somebody who has tested positive, they're able to come back after 24 hours and a negative, 24 hours after the symptoms resolved, and a negative COVID test. We will advise on every situation. So if you call in and your child is sick, if you leave a message on our attendance line, which is what we'd want you to do, we'll often call you back and say, oh, hey, you said your child has a sore throat. tell us about, is there any other symptoms? We have a list of our class A symptoms and class B symptoms, and some of the symptoms you have to have a partner symptom. So it'd be 2 class Bs or 1 class A. And that's when you're required to stay home until the symptom resolved. If it's just 1 class B symptom, you won't have to get a test. So like it's best if we talk it over with you in each situation. We have a health room para, and that health room para is been hired by the district just for this purpose, just to answer questions about COVID-19, to support students who are coming into our health room. We're able to really quickly, we have our health room, we know how to quarantine, I guess is the word, a student who needs to, if they have symptoms, we don't put another student with that student, we put them in another space. And any student who would normally come into the health room for a cut or a scrape, we are able to help that student in our office, another location. So really thoughtful about not exposing kids to another student who has any symptoms. Let's see here. We talked about limited access. We have had just very few situations where we can have volunteers on campus. We were able to do our cleanup. If you haven't been by school lately, come by, see the bark that's been spread and the wood chips that have been spread and the areas that have been weeded. But we were able to have families go to different areas of the school. And so that's why that was allowed. We were able, last year we had some volunteers who helped in the parent waiting areas just to kind of answer questions about the process of arrival and dismissal. I think that was successful. They weren't adults working around kids. Let's see here. Okay, let me go through and answer some of the COVID questions. I just want to make sure when we're on these slides that we get those questions answered. Let's see here. So one question is, will you be notified if there's a positive case in the school? So if there's a positive case in the school, there's a district dashboard, and on the district dashboard, it will say, there's been a case at Hilltop, if there was a positive case. If there is a case, if there is a positive case and it's in your child's classroom, the first thing that we will do is we will work with Snohomish County Health, and they give us guidelines about our contact tracing. And that's kind of where the 3-foot rule and the 6-foot rule comes together, because any child who is in less than 3 feet away from the child who's positive, and if they were wearing masks, both wearing masks and 3 feet away, then if they're less than 3 feet away, they would be considered, they would need to quarantine as well, and quarantine for 10 days. If without masks, so when kids were eating snack, or when kids were in the lunchroom, if they are less than 6 feet away, then they also, anyone around them in a 6-foot radius would also need to quarantine. We are keeping we're keeping seating charts for PE, music, library, on the bus, in band, in the classroom, even where kids are eating lunch, where they're eating snacks. So we can always go back quite a few days and determine if kids were closer together or not. And to be honest, we had an incident, the one incident we had last year, we had a student who was the Snohomish County Health presumed positive, wasn't even a confirmed positive, but presumed positive. They made the presumption that he was positive based on some information. And our staff was really honest. I mean, we had to really say, was there any time where kids were close together? Were they close together for more than 10 minutes? Were they helping each other on computers? Were they, scooting closer together in the lunchroom table? we really went through and we were honest, right? I mean, if we try to keep kids apart, but we know we can't always keep kids apart, right? So we know on the playground, there might be a few close friends who play in the play structure and they're pretty close together, right? Then we're gonna be honest about who that student was close to and make sure that their families are informed. When we get 2 positive cases, and that is considered an outbreak, and that could close a classroom or that could close a bigger amount of the school. And in each of those situations, it's the health department who says, this is what we need you to do. So either I'm on the phone to the health department or our nurse. We've had lots of, I don't know that I'd say close calls, but in the beginning last year it was, okay, a family member's positive, or a friend of a friend, or, and we had to work through a lot of situations with the health department, and they're really great. They call us and they help us through. And then our nurses in the district help with that contact tracing. So we know we're being accurate. There's not ongoing testing of kids. I know some districts are doing kind of random testing just to see if COVID is in the pool of students, and Edmond School District is not doing that right now. Let's see. I think we answered the questions about masks on, even on the playground, even in line, even at as soon as kids arrive on campus. Yeah, the question, we talked about the requirement for vaccines. There are some exemptions that teachers could take. And to be honest, I'm probably not going to even know. It's human resources who handles it. And so I won't know if everyone is vaccinated or not in the building. A lot of teachers have shared that they are, but the final information will be with HR. Okay, so another question is, what plans are in place if a child or teacher tests positive for COVID? And I would say, even if a child is quarantined or a teacher has to quarantine, if a teacher were to have to quarantine or a teacher had COVID, we would get a sub, right? We would have a sub and class would continue, unless kids, unless it was something where there was exposure here. And we had to quarantine kids from the classroom. If a child tests positive and they hadn't been, there's been times where kids are coming off a vacation or something, and they haven't been in our building for the past 10 days, or if a child has to stay home because there was an exposure, and sometimes that exposure is most of the time that last year that exposure wasn't even at school. It might have been, at home. A coworker came and visited a dad's coworker came and visited, and they actually found out they had COVID. So there was an exposure there with their child. Our teachers are going to use Canvas and Seesaw. They may not use it depending on the grade level. They may not use it every single day, but we're going to make sure that kids are familiar with Canvas and Seesaw, and teachers will have that will be the tool that will help us to be able to have kids do homework and do work from home if they are home for 10 days. I think it might look, I expect it, we're going to have some time to talk and think about it as a staff this week. I predict is going to look different from primary than intermediate. Intermediate teachers, like our 6th grade teachers who will use Canvas quite often, kids may be able to stay on pace with exactly what's happening in the classroom. They won't be able to see videos, they won't be able to zoom in, but they'll be able to stay on track with the assignments. Our younger kids, if they were gone for 10 days, it may be more general information or self-paced programs like our iReady program, or using reading from Raz Kids, or doing some number sense activities that we know benefit all kids, that kids can do at their own level. So we want the learning to continue. Anytime a student is absent, they have a right to make up work. So we know that will be that will always be possible, but we want to be proactive. So if your child's gone for a number of days, that we're able to continue learning. Let's see. So a good question is, will the same safeguards remain throughout the whole year? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if at some point Department of Health will change their recommendations. I just don't know what it will look like. It's going to, I believe that even if next month the vaccine becomes available for our school age kids, it will still take a long time for kids to get vaccinated, and every family is going to have a different opinion about whether their child gets vaccinated or not. That's a parent's decision. So I think we're in this for a while at school. I think these mitigation factors will be there. I hope in the spring things will look different. I just don't know. Yeah, question is, will you find out vaccination status of your kid's teacher? And no, I don't think that you will. I think that will maintain with human resources, and I don't think they can share medical records like that. Yeah, and just another question about when people are going to find out teacher placement. That will come on Thursday at 3 o'clock. It'll come in your email. So it'll be an email to your family. So that's a good question. Somebody said, hey, if kids are having COVID-like symptoms but have a negative test, are they allowed to come to school? And they are, if those symptoms have resolved. So the symptoms, so let's say your child has a sore throat. The sore throat resolves in 24 hours and you have you get a negative COVID test, and once the sore throat has resolved for 24 hours, you're able to come, right? And if a doctor diagnoses and says, you can take your child to the pediatrician, they say, oh, your child had strep throat, right? Then we'd follow the procedure for strep throat, right? After the antibiotics are in place for a certain amount of time, your child's no longer contagious, then they're able to come back. So that your child's doctor is also following, likely if they're in Snohomish County health guidance, and the state health guidance. And King County's health guidance is Department of Health is not very different. So we have that. Question about contact tracing at recess. You know, it's not going to be a perfect formula because, but it's actually I take that back. Kids will be, because right now kids will be with their classroom and only their classroom at recess. So it'll help us narrow down and try to figure out who your child plays with and who they're around most often. We'll probably ask your child as well as the adults. You know, we have one adult for every 2 to 3 classrooms, and our paras are they really know our students. They're really quite good at figuring out who was playing with who. So we do our very best. Staff are not tested for COVID, so we're not doing ongoing testing as a district. Let's see. Question is, how many students are in one classroom? We are at our pretty close to our, our regular capacity. We have our classrooms range from, I think our smallest classroom has 19 students, all the way up to our 5th grades have 29 and 30. So where there's a lot of furniture in there to get kids 3 feet apart, it's filled. The classrooms with the more kids in them have a lot of furniture. So we worked really hard to get as much spacing as we can. It meant that some teachers had to take away bookshelves, take away some of the items they typically have in their room, or put them in different areas. Okay, when we drop off, there's a question about the drop-off zone, which is if you're driving your child, then you would be in the curbside pickup, which is now it's been painted out green, so it's a green drop-off pickup zone. And when you pull up, you pull all the way forward, and And when you are able to stop, we are able to find out who your child is, and then we get your child. It really helps us if you're able to hold up a sign or have a piece of paper on your dashboard with your child's name, your child's teacher. Those two things, your child's name and child's teacher, helps the process go really fast. And with COVID, we don't need to make you roll down your window. We don't need to, stop you if you are listening to loud music, or, we can just see the sign. So it really helps us. If you are a walker, and there's some choices for the zones of where you could pick up your child if you're walking, you will let your teacher know what area you want to pick up your child. So if you walk towards the north, then you'd be at the the parent pickup area that is by the school bus zone. If you are walking to the over by the fire station, you'd be at the parent walking station by the bike rack. Or you're walking towards the back of the school, then you'd be right there by the window room, real close to the bike racks. So teachers will really work with you to find out how you're picking up your child, or how your child's getting home, and who's going to be doing that. So just a question about what time is breakfast. It's at 8:20. It is free. And we'll make sure your child will get done by that 8:40. And if a child comes, let's say you're running late, you don't arrive on campus till 8:35 and your child needs breakfast. We're going to prioritize your child getting breakfast, and they won't be tardy, right? If they're into breakfast before 8:40, they will not be tardy. We'll make sure of it. I mean, we'll make sure they don't get counted as tardy, and we'll let them eat. We can't let them finish their food in the classroom because of food service. If they start in the gym, they need to stay there. But we'll take care of your child. We have enough staff to help get children to their classroom. So the question is, if a child does not have COVID but is sick, will a doctor's note be required for return to school? So if we have documentation like your child has allergies, or they have, I can't think of a good stomach illness off the top of my head, but something that's ongoing or chronic, then it should be in your child's record. If it's something new, like the doctor diagnosed strep throat, then it's helpful if you have a doctor's note. It's not required. We definitely, we will take parents' word for what has happened. And so, it's a two-way trust situation. If you tell us doctor diagnosis strep throat and they're on their second day of antibiotics, and doctor said they could come back after one time of couple days of antibiotics, then we're gonna believe you there. Okay, if your child's taking the bus, write down this bit.ly. This is EduLog. It's the parent portal app, and this allows you to track where the bus is and when is it going to show up at your child's bus stop. This is great for when there's a traffic jam or a bus is late and you're like, oh my gosh, should I drive my child to school now because the bus isn't at the bus stop, or should I wait? This is a really great item for that. We'll wrap up real shortly here because I know we're at our time. If your child, if your family is financially poor, we really encourage you to complete a free and reduced meal application. I know we know that lunch and breakfast are free. However, if you do the free and reduced meal application, it can open up benefits for your family. So additional EBT benefits. Here's some phone numbers that can help you. The printed application. Okay, make sure you know how to access Skyward. If you do not, call our office. The first time you are able to get onto Skyward, you need a code from our office, and it's particular to each parent and for the student. So it's really important. It's really important for that information. And so you can get to your child's, on Skyward, you can get your child's bus route information, you can get their report card information, really helpful there. Just a plug, If you want to be a school bus driver, food service worker, a substitute para, and work in our school, really, really important. Couple things to mark your calendar. These are just our last few slides. If you'd like to bring your child's materials before school starts, so you don't want your child to have them in their backpack on the 8th, you can drop them off, curbside drop off between noon and 4. We'll bring them into the gym and we'll deliver them to your classroom for you. And that just helps. We are asking that you not write your child's name on every single item. The exception is if your teacher in their letter asks you to, then do it. But for the most part, we don't want a kindergartner, first grader, or even a 4th or 5th grader to have a year's worth of supply in their desk. Like, it's just too much stuff. And so we dump all the pencils in a big box and they know where to get them if they need more. But the pencil that they're using, the scissors they're using, the glue they're using, they're keeping in their own individual bag or box. Each teacher has a different plan. So they're not sharing. This year there won't be a common container of pencils in the middle of the table, right? Kids will only be using their own, the pencil that they use. They're not going to be touching other people. The supply list is on our website. So when you go to our website to search Hilltop Elementary, make sure you're at the Linwood one, not the Tacoma one, but Hilltop Elementary, on the left-hand side, it has the school supplies. Here is that office number some people are asking about. The attendance line is really important because you can leave a message 24 hours a day. And your child's teacher, if you want to get to your child's teacher, the best thing to do is email. However, if you're changing pickup plans, if there's anything that your child's teacher needs to know that day, please don't count on the email. Please call the office so we can get a message to your teacher. We don't want our teachers checking emails throughout the day. We want them teaching. And so if you need to get a hold of your teacher, or you have a change in who's picking up your child or how they're getting home, make sure you call the office. Okay. And then lastly, just a plug for the PTSA. Our Hilltop PTSA does so much for our students, and you don't have to be, you don't have to put in hours and hours of volunteering or be on the board. Just by joining and becoming a member, it really helps our PTSA, helps them be eligible for different grants and such. So important to do. Okay, I'm scrolling through questions now because we got a few new questions. If you have to leave, thank you for being here and have a great night. And if you want to stay, I'll keep answering questions. So one question is about Edulog, the bus program, the bus app. You can call transportation and their phone number. I can give it to you right now. Their phone number is I'm sorry, that doesn't help you. Their phone number is 425-431-7230. That is the transportation number, 425-431-7230. And then the next question is, what's the office number? But we showed that slide. And then, okay, so here's a question. So question about, question about contact tracing. So we do contact tracing when someone tells us that their child is positive. So, or if the testing was done at school and we find out the test was positive. So it is a little bit, testing is voluntary, so we don't always know. That is a true statement. That was, if a child has a symptom, the quickest way to get back to school is to get a negative COVID test and have that symptom be resolved for at least 24 hours, and then your child is back in school. If you decide not to test your child and they had COVID symptoms, they're out for 10 days. So we hope most people will do the COVID testing. We also, by the school offering the COVID testing, it really increases the likelihood that people will do the COVID testing. And especially since it's a mouth swab, the way we do it at school, we had most families who we sent home last year with a symptom were very willing to do the testing. And so that's a good question. So yeah, it's based on a positive test result. So if somebody goes home with a symptom and your child was next to that student who went home with a symptom, you don't get informed. But when that student becomes positive, then we would, if that student has a positive test and your child was less than 3 feet with masks or more than 10 minutes throughout the day, or less than 6 feet when masks are off, which is when they're eating, then we would inform you. So good question about like where, if somebody's going across the street, like I'm assuming over by the fire station, where would, if they're walking their student, where would they drop off their student and pick them up? There'll be orange cones by the bike rack. And that's kind of, is a big tree and an orange portable. That would be an area. If you live across the street, closer to the north by the bus zone, there's another parent drop-off area by the bus zone, and there'll be orange cones, and you'll see a lot of parents. Parents feel free to spread out onto the grass wherever you can. We want to make sure you are safe and spaced out as well. And so another question is, do we close down the class that has a positive test result in it? And this could change, but currently we don't close down the whole test the whole class if one student is positive. We do, if one student is positive, we inform the students or the students who have been close to that student, less than 3 feet with masks on or less than 6 feet with masks off during eating, then any of those families get informed and have to quarantine or take a test after they have to quarantine. Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, I guess there's not a test there. They still have to quarantine for 10 days because you don't know when symptoms are going to come. So they still have to stay home. If you're a close contact, you have to stay home for 10 days. Yeah, so we encourage you to test after 3 to 5 days after symptoms might start to come on. We also encourage you to talk to your pediatrician. They'll give you some information. So that is if your child was a close contact to somebody who tested positive. Otherwise, if you don't test, well, whether you test or not, you're still staying home for 10 days. And then of course it's longer if you were to get symptoms or test positive. I'm just checking to see if I missed any questions. So if I did miss your question, if you want to re-put it in the chat, that would be fine. We'll spend just another couple minutes, and then I want to make sure you're all able to get off to your evening. I know we're starting to get kids ready for the school year. My kids are starting school tomorrow, and so they're a little bit older, 12 and 14, and not so happy that that lights out has changed, the time to go upstairs has changed. Everything's getting earlier and earlier, and to get ready for school. So I don't see any more questions in the chat. I really appreciate you being here. Nice to see so many of our family members here. Feel free to email me if you think of something. Get a nice shout out for our staff, and thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I left my video off during that whole second half. That was not intentional. But have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye, Laura.